Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, I've got Shay Ross with the Oregon State Police Fish and Wildlife Division. Make sure I get that correctly. And Officer Trooper Scout. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, K-9 Scout, probably.
All right.
Technical term, but yeah, he's part of the deal. He's got his own badge.
Yeah.
And goes to work with me, so.
I'm telling you what, man, that's just super cool. I've been a dog person, obviously, all my life, like a lot of us are that watching the show. Working dogs are a ton of fun. There's all kinds of different types of working dogs. Before we talk about Scout, because he's certainly going to be a topic of discussion, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you actually get involved in the Fish and Game Division of Oregon State Police?
Yeah, right. So I'm a Fish and Wildlife Trooper for Oregon State Police Fish and Wildlife Division. Been doing that for about 8 years now. So I started in Coos Bay, worked down there for about 4 years, working a little bit of the ocean, working some of the Coast Range Mountains. Always wanted to be in Fish and Wildlife Division for State Police. Try to do that by going to college and getting a wildlife degree at Oregon State University.
Okay, you're a beaver.
Yeah.
We won't hold that against you. That's
well,
okay.
I appreciate that. So yeah, I went there, got my degree, and ended up starting up with State Police, and was fortunate enough to get selected to go to Coos Bay Fish and Wildlife when I started 8 years ago. Had a good time doing that, and then went down to Lapine and worked for 2 years, Fish and Wildlife, and then when a new K-9 position opened up, I jumped on that, applied, and was fortunate enough to get that position in Bend now.
Sure, okay, so you're out of Bend, and you said you had to apply. It's a relatively new program. How many years has it been going on for OSP?
Right, so the Fish and Wildlife Division started the Conservation K-9 program basically 5 years ago with our first K-9. His name is K-9 Buck, and he's in Springfield with his handler, Trooper Josh Wolcott.
Okay.
And so they started that about 5 years ago, and then I got Scout about 2.5 years ago. And so it's a pretty new program. We've only had 2 dogs in the history of the program. We are looking at hopefully and possibly expanding that next spring to get 4 dogs.
Okay.
Just so we have this resource for the state that's a little more spread out.
Gotcha, because it's only 2 of you for the whole state.
Only 2 of us for the whole state. So we have one team, myself and Scout here in Central Oregon, and then the other team, Josh Wolcott and Buck down in Springfield. So
gotcha.
A lot of the state to cover that takes a lot of travel to get to.
So what made you want to get into the Fish and Wildlife Division of OSP? Were you already an outdoors person? Were you out there already having fun with it? Or was
I always grew up, you know, hunting and fishing, enjoyed the outdoors. Had a lot of that from my dad. He was big into hunting and fishing as well.
Okay.
And so just thought that, you know, sounds like a lot more fun job to be out and about in the field and doing something than being in an office kind of setting. And
yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Now I get to spend my days out in the woods or on a boat or in airplanes and driving around with the dog and trying to either help people or find some people that are doing some stuff wrong. So.
Well, now everyone's going to have to know or be curious, what made you want to work with a K-9 when you didn't have to? I mean, obviously there's some folks that are into that, some folks that are just not into it at all. Were you already a dog person?
I grew up having a lab as a dog, and then, you know, my family and I, we have a personal lab right now. Okay. So I've always enjoyed dogs and never been a professional trainer, didn't have a lot of experience doing anything like that, but I got a hold of Josh when the position came open and asked if I could ride along with him, kind of learn more about it.
Sure.
Rode along with him and Buck for a couple days, learned some stuff about having a K-9 and working with a dog, and it just really interested me. I was ready for something a little bit different in the job. Still wanted to maintain fish and wildlife and natural resource stuff like that, but wanted just to try something different and try to help grow the program, so jumped on that. And was fortunate enough to get it, you know, interviewed with a couple other troopers from around the state, and then I ended up getting the position, got Scout.
Very well. First things first, man. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah,
I'm out there every day.
Good
fishing,
deal. Like to hear it.
Hunting throughout the season. Doesn't matter what species it is, and we all are fed up and sick and tired of the amount of poaching that still goes on. And I know that's a big piece of the puzzle for you and Scout. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How Scout helps you in those situations? Are you called ahead of time for it? Are you out looking for it? How does that process start when you're getting Scout involved?
Perfect, great question. So yeah, Scout is with me every day at work. So if I come across an issue in which I want to or can utilize him as an asset, I have that. But you know, only having 2 dogs in the state, if somebody else has a case or a call where they think a K-9 might be useful, then they have to call me and I have to travel out to help them. So it's nice to have him when I do come across stuff, but it's also great to have other troopers that are in need of assistance and call me and Scout to come out and use his nose to help us find stuff.
And I bet you he's got a good nose.
He does. He's got a pretty awesome nose, so it's very helpful in the field.
Now, so Scout, obviously, and yourself, had to go through some special training, right, to get to the point where you're at now.
Right.
What does Scout trained up on? What is his field of expertise?
Yeah, so he is a conservation canine, so not like a drug dog that you see, or not like an apprehension canine where they go and bite people and take them down for cops.
Sure.
So his primary responsibilities are to help me with my primary responsibilities, which is basically preservation of natural resources and helping out the state in that way. So he's trained in 3 different disciplines, as I say. First one is human tracking, which is exactly as it sounds.
Right.
He's trained to track somebody, so if you run from me, or if you're lost in the woods, or if you're trespassing on private property, I can start at your vehicle or wherever you were at, and we can go find you.
Gotcha.
All I have to do is hook him up to a harness and make sure it doesn't pull me down, and he'll just lead me right to you. The second thing is a little bit like a narcotics or detection canine. So he's trained in the detection of wildlife. So specifically elk, deer, bear, turkey, waterfowl, salmon, steelhead, sturgeon, all sorts of fisheries.
Okay.
So kind of like a drug dog that's supposed to go out and find some specific drugs and alert on those.
Right.
He's trained to find these wildlife and alert on them, whether they're stuck in a cooler or locked in somebody's vehicle or in the woods stashed under some brush, anything like that. Where I can't see them, or maybe where I don't know where they are, he can tell me where they are with just his nose. He doesn't have to see anything.
Sure, exactly.
And then the third discipline is kind of my favorite. It's the most utilized, I think. It's the most fun to train, is article searches is basically what we call it. So kind of encompasses 2 different things, human odor and then burnt gunpowder residue. So he's able to detect anything that somebody's recently touched or dropped, like if you lost your keys or hat or cell phone or something like that. He's going to be able to find that with just his nose based on the human odor that's on that.
Okay.
And then burnt gunpowder residue as well. So he can find bullets, like shell casings, shotgun shell wads, you know, and guns that are hidden. So we use that a lot, obviously, in poaching aspects where people are utilizing guns. We might kind of know who the person is, but we can't find a shell casing that could tie it back to a weapon. He's been able to do that for us and find a shell casing that you can't even see.
Right.
So it's great.
I can imagine that. It's got to be, for you, it's got to be a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
I mean, it's got to be.
Yeah.
Being able to have all your work and effort into Scout. And
Right.
obviously,
Oh, yeah.
he enjoys it too. That's part of
Yeah.
a lab or part of any dog, really. He wants to please you. He wants to get that toy. He wants to make sure that he's doing what he thinks is fun, right?
Yeah, it's a true partnership, and it's just great to have something else, you know, another person basically with you. He's
Yeah.
kind of my buddy all day at work.
Sure.
And he knows what the game is. To him, it's a game. To me, it's work.
Sure.
But yeah, he just loves to go out and do the job and get rewarded with a toy and just play around.
So it's the Oregon State Police Fish and Game Division.
Yeah.
What would you say is your primary mission, or is there even one?
Yeah, so basically the mission is protect the people, property, and natural resources of the state. That's kind of the mission of the Oregon State Police in general. We have 3 different divisions. We have the patrol division, which is what you typically see on the highways, running traffic, helping out with crashes and stuff like that. We have criminal division, which is basically our detectives that are working major crimes and stuff throughout the state. And then we have Fish and Wildlife division, which is people that are dressed like me, and we're out in the woods or the waterways, helping to protect those natural resources by doing licensing checks and making sure people are abiding by quotas and harvest limits, all that kind of stuff. So instead of game wardens, you know, that a lot of other states have, us in Alaska, being Oregon, Alaska, are the 2 states that have their state police troopers or state troopers doing the fisheries and wildlife enforcement. So that's kind of where we come in.
We call you Holy Cow. Holy cow, here he is. Oh, geez.
I've heard a few of those before.
I'm sure
in my
you have.
day.
I can only, God, I wish we could just talk about some of the stories, really, because it would be awesome. Okay, I want to learn more about Scout, though. When we come back from this break, I want to find out maybe one of his cases, situations, maybe that's come up that is maybe more memorable than others. And then I also want to talk about how viewers that are watching out there can also help out, because we want all this poaching, and it's been you've got to be a busy person, man.
Yeah, it's definitely still an ongoing issue.
It is it's 2025 people. Anyway, y'all know me. I'll get sidetracked. It makes us all look bad. We got to make sure that we can help out any way that we can. We'll be back with Mr. Ross, Trooper Ross, and Scout in just a little bit.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Yakima Bait, steeped in tradition, innovation, and fishing success. Procure Bait Sense, ruthlessly effective. And by North American Metals Incorporated, first choice for all your metal roofing and siding needs.